Welcome back at 23 minutes before the hour. It's not just radio.
It's rock radio.
Of course it is, and
That's
it
what
is
they keep telling
special
me.
guest time.
Yes, it is. And I don't know of a more fitting guest for maybe today or this week in general. It's Dr. Buck Blodgett. He poses the question, and it's certainly a one for deep thought. If a loved one was murdered or hurt badly, would you seek revenge or offer forgiveness? Or would you turn the tragedy into a mission that could help others? He is also the author of A Message from Jesse. He has founded the Love Hate Project at ligth.org. Welcome, Dr. Buck Blodgett. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, anytime, my dear.
And, you know, we all think that we would be bigger than the situation and that we would want to turn a negative into a positive. But there's a lot of hatred going around. And because of that, would we be able to do it? Ray?
Oh, Dr. Blodgett, I wanted to tell you up front that I understand that your daughter was murdered, and this was the founding or the start of your project, and I want to tell you how sorry we are for your loss.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. She was raped and killed by a friend on July 15th, 2013, 6 years ago now. And I was not among the people who would have thought that I would respond to that in the way that has happened. But that event rocked me out of my normal life, my 53-year world.
Oh.
Okay, Dr. Blodgett will be back with us in a minute. Can you imagine the terror and the feelings that you have?
I can't. I know how broken anyone is when they have lost someone they love dearly.
Dr. Blodgett is back with us. So, Doctor, continue to tell us more about your situation.
Sorry about that.
No problem. It was just it was one of those things that people think doesn't happen to you. And, you see it on the news, and it was just such a shock. And Jessie was an amazing young girl. I'm her dad, of course, a little biased opinion, but really bright and talented and really popular and loved by many. And it just came out of nowhere. And I don't know why. I have a hard time still 6 years later putting this into words, but I felt just overwhelmed by maybe an inner knowledge that there was only one way to react to this, and that we have to meet, we have to practice, we have to get better. Humans have to get better at responding to hate with love, to darkness with light, to violence with peace. And I knew that was the only way to honor Jessie properly.
Doctor, were you a spiritual person going in? Did you have a strong belief system in anything?
I identified as an atheist 6 years and 2 months ago, and so did Jess, but both of us pretty spiritual, on spiritual journeys our whole lives. My atheism changed quickly when a series of crazy, beautiful, and amazing things started to happen to me and my friends and Jessie's friends, about 24 of them in the year after she was killed, starting the morning after at the bottom of my driveway with a odd butterfly encounter. And that changed everything for me, made me feel like I'd been missing something for 53 years, and so I'm no longer an atheist.
Wow.
A new gift to be found, right?
There is darkness from that, light from that darkness, then. That's an amazing conversion, because many people would be more bitter against a creator or a belief system or something when something so unbelievable happens to them.
Now,
but it was a catharsis for you.
Yeah, it was. I totally understand when people get angry at God or a creator. And that just never happened to me. I just felt this ridiculous, powerful and overwhelming sense that everything was okay. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and
it's hard to explain. I know it sounds crazy, But
No, grief, we all deal with grief in different ways. I would have thought you would have been, as a father, especially because of the relationship between daughters and their fathers is akin to a son and a mother. That's a very special bond. But I would have thought, I know my father, I would think, would have been enraged.
Yeah, it had to go through your mind that you wanted to find this guy and kill him. Let's face it. Let's call it what it is. Did that go through your mind? Was immediate? Did that come to your mind? Is that the first emotion you felt after it?
It wasn't the first. There were moments. There still are moments. You know, when we get a letter in the mail saying that he's appealing to the United States Supreme Court 5 years later, when there's just a mountain of DNA evidence and physical evidence, and, you know, he still hasn't admitted what he did or apologized, acknowledged in any way, shown real remorse for Jessie or for my wife who lost her. So there's moments. There's times I get mad, but the first year, it's hard to find words for it, but really it was more just a sadness. It was an incredible blow losing Jessie, and yes, her and I were very, very close. Used to walk and talk every day, loved her, still love her, still feel her presence. Feel like she's letting me know that she's not here physically anymore, but still here in some other form that I don't have the answers for.
Right,
so we
but
were
that's
very
a
close.
great feeling.
Anger wasn't something that I dealt with very much in the beginning.
Well, that's good. That's very noble of you. And when we come back from this time out, I want to ask you about exactly, you mentioned your wife, and of course, obviously, that situation and that connection must have even been tougher to handle than your own grief and your own mourning problems, because you understand the suffering that your, as they say, better half was going through at the same time.
Sure.
So let's discover that a little bit and search into that when we return. Our guest is Dr. Buck Blodgett. A very interesting story, to say the least, and yet so tragic. So unbelievable. Age of 19 to lose your daughter. Terrible. We'll be back with that and a whole lot more. This is
Daybreak USA.
Daybreak USA with Rod and Ray. Dr. Buck Blodgett with us this morning, who lost his daughter terribly, tragically. How do you handle the situation with your wife, part of the living, to tell her that her daughter is dead? How does that happen?
You know, Rod, when the day it happened, Joy and I sat on the couch together between detective interviews, and she turned to me and said something. She said, "Honey, marriages break up over things like this. We have to stick together." And
wow.
We both somehow knew she had just spoken truth. And I didn't know it at the time, but I learned since that 79% of marriages do not survive the death of a child, 4 out of 5. So
wow.
Boy,
we looked at
high.
each other and promised to, and we just try to keep that promise every day. And we have to understand that each of us, everyone, grieves differently. And I have my way. My way is I have to do something about this, whatever I can. And her way is to be in her own space and process it as best she can without strangers loving all over her. And so we just stick together. The times I do get angry now, getting back to an earlier question, is when Joy gets triggered unnecessarily, especially by something that the perpetrator did. But, you know, we do our best, and we try to bring light instead of darkness into this world every day.
It's such a almost insurmountable thing, and we so need people who have been in your circumstances to help, I think, the rest of us along. But you make an important point here, and I'd like to delve further into that and how important the relationship for between fathers, displaying and teaching others how to treat women as their daughters look up to their fathers to learn what to look for in the man they choose to be with or to date or to even marry. And how important is that for parents to discuss that with their children, and the boys too?
It's critically important, Ray, both boys and girls. We know, we have a lot of data for decades now that tells us that children who grow up in homes where they witness sexual violence and domestic violence are far more statistically likely to commit it themselves when they have homes of their own when they grow up. And even in peaceful homes, in the same way that parents set the bar for grades or for curfew or work ethic or values or behaviors of any kind, in the same way they set the expectation, either purposefully or unconsciously, for how boys treat girls. And, you know, in my generation, I'm going to be 60 on my next birthday, dads rarely talk with their sons about how a man treats his wife, how a man treats his daughter, how a boy treats a girl. And what conversation could be more important in 2019? It's time. We need to do that.
You know, I've always said that I don't care how people treat me. It's how they treat Ray. If people don't treat Ray well, then I don't like them. Because I don't care how you treat me. I'll get over it. But with her, you can't do that. That is... and you know,
he's very old school as far, and that's, I don't mean to poke fun at that or anything, but my father was a lot like that.
I was just going to say, both of our fathers were serving in the military during World War II. My father was a sailor and was on a battleship and on a submarine, and yet I never heard my father cuss in front of myself, my brother, my mother, or my grandfather. He never did. He was a sailor. They're known for that. But, you know, but he wouldn't do that. And for some reason, I'm able to be on the radio, and I have the foulest mouth in the world. Ray will admit to that.
Well, only in very illustrious fashions, you know. It's not just for the fun of it.
It's for shock value.
Well, no, it's more woven into a story, but I want to take the time to turn this into a positive, because I think that is what your hope, I think that's part of the foundation's goal, and that is to reduce violence against women, but not just that, but to end it. Where are some really good steps we as a culture or just individuals, who needs to start the ball rolling?
We all do. One guy's not going to get anything done. And I'm amazed at the impact and the ripple effect from just me sharing Jessie's story and her mission and her messages. And by the way, the Love is Greater Than Hate project is Jessie's legacy project, and we do have a dual mission. It's to end violence against our girls and women, male-on-female violence, through culture transformation, and also to inspire love over hate, inspire people to choose love over hate. And, you know, let's get real simple. All of us can speak and act mindfully and know that our words have an impact and have actionable effects. Guys, in today's world, here's one good thing that men can say. You know, if you're in Wisconsin like I am, in the deer cabin or in the bar or in the locker room.
Anywhere, right.
Dude, it's 2019. We don't do that anymore. We don't say that anymore when someone says something that's misogynistic. We don't do that anymore. You can support your local domestic violence center or service organization. So the main thing for me is just for people to not, you know, I think our biggest enemy is cynicism and apathy and thinking that we don't make a difference. We make a huge difference. And people's voices matter and their stories matter. So just speak up.
Doctor, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your tragedy, and I hope it helps people. The website, www.ligth.org, and to get help if you're in those kind of situations.
Change the way things are being done.
Stop the chain. Break the chain. Rod and Ray are on the radio, and it is
Daybreak USA.